Well, it was only a matter of time, but after a playthrough of the game, reading 4 documents thus far, and a revisit, it's time that I effectively close the book on Sonic Omens. After seeing other people play the game and either praising it or criticizing it, it's time that I do the same and give this game the closure that it rightfully deserves. I'll be covering the story of the game, followed by the game itself, and closing with a verdict that will finally give this game the closure that it needs. However, I will say that this doesn't guarantee how anyone else feels about the game. It's up to you to develop your own feelings about Sonic Omens to determine what you like and what you didn't like. So consider this a warning as to what you might experience and also something to look forward to. But all this in mind, this review will be my last trip to Sonic Omens, assuming that Ouroboros Studio hasn't updated the game or added anything to it. Also, if you want to read the documents regarding the background of the studio itself and the controversy of Sonic Omens, the 4 documents will be located in the description. Sonic Omens takes place after the events of both Sonic X and Sonic Unleashed, meaning that Omens is set after the war against the Meta-X and the Dark Gaia incident. Tails plays Sonic with a news report about Eggman stealing a Chaos Diamond from a Gaia temple. Tails also receives signals from his sensors regarding some strange activity at an abandoned tower that once belonged to Eggman. As Sonic and Tails get closer to the tower, they notice some robots still active. They eventually enter the tower and are attacked by another robot, which was carrying a tracking signal of Eggman's location. Sonic and Tails fly the Hyper Tornado to where Eggman was, which is Area 99. Sonic and Tails split up to avoid any unwanted attention, but they both get targeted by Gun's robots. Eventually, the two find Eggman, who was stealing another diamond, which awakens some sort of beast. After defeating the giant creature, Sonic retrieved the diamond that Eggman attempted to steal, and he and Tails continue their pursuit of Eggman. As they chase Eggman to White Jungle, where they're also being targeted by Guns robots, Sonic distracts them and goes after the diamond located in a giant tree. Upon taking it, the tree is flooded, but Sonic manages to hold on to the diamond, which begins to glow along with the other diamond. If you remember how the Chaos Diamonds glow when two are together, it's the same phenomenon here. Due to a damaged engine, the Hyper Tornado crash lands with Sonic on top. Meanwhile, Shadow was assigned a mission from Gun to deliver the Chaos Diamonds to them, all while given a diamond from a mysterious character, who was also at the temple near Area 99. With Rouge's guidance, Shadow tracks down the 2 diamonds that resonated with each other and discovered a giant monster, which he defeats by removing his inhibitor rings, all while having visions of Maria. Afterwards, Shadow pursues Eggman himself and finds Sonic and Tails in the right Hyper Tornado and basically tells Sonic that the Chaos Diamonds awakened something, and how he's being a nuisance to Gun's operations. And instead of working together to chase Eggman, they go their separate ways to continue their chase. Sonic pursues, but Shadow was ordered to stand by. Gun arrived on the scene as Eggman fought against Sonic and lost. Gun retrieves the stolen Chaos Diamonds and has them in their care as part of their mutual protection act due to Sonic not upholding his part of the agreement. Do they want him to do what Knuckles is doing and protect the diamonds? Gun arrests Eggman and suddenly the Meta-Rats arrive and their leader, who was the mysterious character called the Exiled, retrieve the diamonds to wreak havoc on the city. Shadow knocks out Sonic and gives his diamond to the Exiled. Sonic wakes up only to find himself in the care of Eggman, who explains what the situation is. Chris Thornknight, Sonic's friend from Earth, studied dimensional travel by manipulating the fabric of time and space. Unfortunately for him, traveling to different dimensions twice also sped up his aging, allowing him only 15 years left to live. He also changed Gun's warlike ways and also discovered the Exiled during his dimensional experiments. The Exiled and Chris collaborated for the remainder of Chris's life. Afterwards, Gun reverted to their belligerent ways, prompting the Exiled to use Chris's life work to satisfy his own goals, recruiting Shadow in the process. Eggman had his own endeavors to attend to during the Dark Gaia incident, as he was the one responsible for awakening Dark Gaia to begin with, causing the diamonds to lose their power. Chris tried to unite Earth with Mobius, which did happen once before, but this time he tried to unite both worlds completely. His dream wasn't fully realized due to his passing, and how the Exiled is using his life work for his own benefit. The Exiled is planning to rip a hole in the fabric of time and space, something that Eggman attempted to do before, but someone of his caliber, who has an IQ similar to Ami Mizuno, forgot to carry the 3.
I had already attempted this once before, but it ended in failure. I may have slightly miscalculated the numbers. Forgot to carry the 3.
You are retarded!
To counter this, the solution is to produce energy that the Chaos Diamonds can already manage. They would need to break the diamonds, effectively destroying them. This would destroy the reality of Mobius itself, and because the diamonds are in danger, Gnarl, Vortex, and Ember, the monsters that Sonic and Shadow encounter respectively, would awaken and react to the impending danger accordingly. So the plan is to enter the Exiled Citadel and use the diamond's power to cause a huge burst of power so large that it could destroy reality as they know it. As Sonic and Tails get closer to the Citadel, Shadow has another hallucination of Maria, but this one was conjured by the Exile, who explains to Shadow that he used Gun's technology to manipulate him. Outraged, Shadow removes his inhibitor rings and readies himself for combat after expressing his anger for being deceived for 2 years. Sonic breaks into the Citadel and finds the Exile, who began using the portal that Chris used long ago. As the diamonds break one by one, Sonic manages to take one, but for a brief moment. Turns out that the Exile got his name after the former leader of the Matter X, Dark Oak, exiled the Exile after he rebelled against Dark Oak and his ambitions. All the Exile wants to do now is to return home. He wants to return to planet Greengate, back to the planet that is long since dead. Needless to say, he has no idea of what became of his homeworld after the Cedrians left it behind. Sonic questions if the Chaos Guardians were a part of his plan, but the truth is, since the diamonds no longer exist, the United World will slowly but surely be destroyed. Shadow, barely standing, manages to destroy the portal, and Sonic's bracelet begins to absorb the Chaos energy, granting him the super form. The Exile then fights against Super Sonic, which led to his ultimate downfall. Afterwards, Sonic breaks the bracelet, which scattered the Chaos energy, restoring the United World to its former glory. Sonic then asks Eggman what he wanted to change, but Eggman's reply is basically a question for another time.
Well, even someone like me has some regrets in life, Sonic. But let's leave that story for another time.
Where'd you get that?
A good question. For another time.
Knuckles leads the broken powerless Master Emerald, Shadow returns to Rouge, Tails receives 2 tickets to Eggman's Incredible Instant Amusement Park, allegedly, and Sonic visits Chris's grave. I get some of this story with Sonic chasing after Eggman and delivering justice as he does to the bigger bad of the story, while Shadow received the shortest end of the stick here. Due to the Exile deceiving him and everyone else at Gun, Shadow became the Exile's errand boy. Shadow in this game is a complete buffoon who is agreeing with what the Exile is telling him. Keep in mind that Shadow fought against the Meta Race before, so he knows who these creatures are and what they've done. It makes absolutely no sense for Shadow to agree to anything the Exile says. Speaking of the Exile, I'm willing to believe that people on Earth had no clue who or what the Metarids are, and once Exile took over Chris's study, nobody bothered to impede his own campaign. He just joined Gun and I guess secretly planned his own agenda to go back to his world that he doesn't know is just a lifeless forest field. The Exile wasn't properly introduced in this game. The first mentioning of him is when Sonic storms Area 99.
Let's do this!
The Exile's true identity is never revealed, unlike Dark Oak and Yellow Zelkova. Shadow is treated as an idiot who doesn't know any better, and the story itself breaks canon. The Chaos Diamonds break, and the Chaos energy is scattered throughout the atmosphere of the United World. Never mind the fact that the diamonds are used again when Sonic and friends fought against Imperator X with Shade's help by collecting the Chaos Diamonds, or how Sonic used the diamonds to neutralize the Nega-Wisp mother, and how the diamonds were used to defeat the Time Eater. Sonic Omens explains why the Chaos Diamonds don't appear in other Sonic games when they do. They appear in Sonic Chronicles The Dark Brotherhood, the true ending of Sonic Colors, and Sonic Generations. Also, Gun disbands after the Exiles' defeat, and they basically let Eggman go so that he can build his amusement park from the orbital Metared space debris. Never mind the fact that Gun themselves assisted Sonic and his friends in the destruction of Eggman's base. When used in context of the Sonic canon, the story of Sonic Omens breaks it. It completely ignores the plot of Sonic Chronicles, as does the rest of the series because of the stupid lawsuit from Ken Penders, the true ending of Sonic Colors, and Sonic Generations. I find this both disturbing and infuriating, and all of this is coming from a fan game. I already hated how Sonic characters in canon were being treated by Sonic Team and Sega themselves, but this coming from a Russian development team that made a Sonic fan game like this is a new low. Tails is basically providing aviation support, Rouge acts as a navigator, Knuckles guards the Master Emerald where he needs to be, and Amy calls Sonic because she's mad at him for missing the picnic.
Amy? Oh, that was today?
Sonic! How could you be such a hero and yet so irresponsible at the same time?
Sorry, Amy. Going through a tunnel. This area's a dead zone. I can't hit you. We'll call you back later.
Overall, it's your typical Sonic story with some doom and gloom climax with a character or two doing something stupid, and in this case, it's Shadow being easily deceived and Gun letting Eggman go after all the trouble he caused and not monitoring the Exile to ensure that he doesn't start some genocide campaign. Sonic Omens feels like someone wanted Sonic X to continue, all while ignoring other vital plot points that happen in the series. As for the gameplay, there are 3 characters to play when going through the episodes: Sonic, Shadow, and Tails piloting the Hyper Tornado. Sonic has both his movesets from from the adventure games and the modern games. From adventure, he has his bound attack and light speed attack, and from the modern games, he has his boost, stomp, sidestep, and slide. He also has the bracelet from Unleash that he can use as a grappling hook. Shadow in this game lives up to his title as the ultimate life form because this is the game that fully realizes Shadow in terms of what he can do. He has all his chaos abilities and makes good use of them. He has his chaos spear, which can be aimed or charged at nearby targets, which for some odd reason third-person view is mapped to the left analog stick and not the right one. Chaos control, which slows down time. Chaos dash, that's a teleporting dash ability, and the chaos blast that destroys all targets surrounding Shadow. And the chaos blast in this is way better than the chaos blast from Shadow the Hedgehog in Sonic 2006. Sonic Chronicles was the official Sonic game that actually has Shadow use his chaos abilities effectively, but that game was an RPG. There is no official 2D or 3D Sonic game that has Shadow use his abilities the way he's supposed to. So the fact that a fan game can get it right is outright laughable to the official Sonic games. Finally, there's Tails in the Hybrid Tornado, where he can shoot bullets and missiles and ride around similar to All Range mode from Star Fox 64. Out of all the characters in this game, I enjoy playing as Sonic and Shadow. Though they feel similar to each other, their abilities sets them apart. Whether it's Sonic with this flowing gameplay with this bound attack, light speed attack, or his bracelet, or Shadow using his chaos abilities that fits a certain situation, whether it's slowing down platforms, shooting switches, blowing up robots, or dashing to cross a gap or go higher, what sets Shadow back is the constant need for energy anytime he uses these abilities. Chaos energy is treated similar to boost energy, either defeating enemies or finding red energy capsules can replenish it. If this works similarly to, say, MP Recharge from Kingdom Hearts, then using chaos abilities would have been better. The Hybrid Tornado is not great. It's not as fun or thrilling like flying the R-Wing, and the prime objective is to shoot switches just to progress through the level, unless it's escaping the Gnarl. If this was more like Star Fox, then the overall experience would have been enjoyable. What I hate most about the Hybrid Tornado levels is the lack of a radar. This is most apparent when Tails has to find either switches or enemies to shoot at, because not being able to find where anything is a major setback. Games with an open field should have some sort of radar or map to use to find appropriate objectives in order to progress. I didn't mind Water Ridge too much, but Weeping Rift desperately should have added a map. Speaking of stages, the Wellspring is more of a tutorial level to learn what Sonic can do. Child Paradise is a great opening of the game with simple obstacles and underwater sections. Why these aren't the official 3D Sonic games is beyond me, and really like how Sonic can either run on water or just run under it. Area 99 is where the game starts showing its hazardous nature, spikes and lasers to be precise. I had a decent time with this one, but it could have been better without most of the spikes and laser activity. Wild Ridge wasn't a complete loss, but the pacing of this is not as thrilling. Waiting for right openings to boost through and trying to shoot down gun robots before they notice and shoot down the Hybrid Tornado is more pressuring than engaging. The Hybrid Tornado can restore its health by collecting rings or shooting at the health boxes, but boosting towards terrain and getting shot at by enemies takes a huge chunk of health. There's also barrel rolling as well, just don't barrel roll towards the side and risk crashing. Escaping the Gnarl is actually how I like the Hybrid Tornado stages to be, boosting through obstacles and avoiding crashing. The boss fight here isn't that thrilling. Waiting for the Gnarl to appear and trying to deal as much damage as possible wasn't that fun for me. White Jungle is similar to the White Jungle from Adventure 2, running on tree trunks and using zip lines, but the zip lines here are much slower compared to the zip lines from Adventure 2. In Adventure 2, the zip lines work instantaneously when grabbed on, but here they have some wind-up time before flinging Sonic to the other side, which can allow enemies to get a good shot in before Sonic zips away. Tree Palace is not a good vertical tree level. Sonic needs to activate switches to unlock springs to climb the tree, but then comes the platforming section where you need to be extra careful when jumping around or running on walls or branches. If this was more like how Team Sonic ascended in Lost Jungle from Sonic Heroes, jumping on mushrooms, swinging off of vines, and grinding on branches, then this would have been better. One mistake could ruin progress, and Sonic will have to climb the tree again. Waterfall Chase isn't that bad. Running from rushing water, all while avoiding rocks and grinding on vines, when it works anyway, is a good adrenaline rush. Gun Arsenal is not only Shadow's tutorial level to learn how to use his chaos abilities, but is also filled with lasers, grinding rails surrounded by gun robots, and Vector in the computer room.
Shadow! Looks like you found the computer room after all!
This was a mixed bag for me because even though I like how this teaches how Shadow works, this also applies to how he progresses in his levels. Shadow needs to defeat enemies in certain rooms in order to progress, so he'll be hunting down enemies or just blowing up everything with Chaos Blast. Moldy Jungle wasn't really that bad. This one has more of a greater focus on platforming than speed, plenty of switches to press, and plans to only attack too. This stage is simply alright, but the message about conserving boosts from White Jungle should have been displayed here because there isn't much speed activity going on. United Railroad is a stage stage that I want it to like. The blend of the industrial environment and the plant life is what I like about this level in particular. Unfortunately, United Railroad doubles down on the hazards, such as spikes all over the place, flamethrowers that shoot from the ground, and crushers. Too many crushers, I might add. The train part is the worst part. Spikes everywhere, crushers that Shadow can barely boost through unscathed, and the billboards that can smash Shadow right off. I like the Sonic S references though. Weeping Rift is the worst level in the entire game. Instant kill hazards, meta-wrecks all over the place, trying to avoid Ember all while boosting for cover while the wind pressure pushes Hyper Tornado away from set cover makes this the worst level in the game. Combined with all the problems the Hyper Tornado levels have already, this is made even worse here. Finally, there's Citadel of the Lotus, where Sonic needs his bracelet the most to swing across gaps, uses Lightspeed attack to defeat meta-wrecks with progression, and sidestep to avoid electric panels that are also instant kill. And the camera angles when Sonic is running on these long bridges is terrible. If this had those sections where Sonic is running from the giant robot from Unleashed, then this would have been better. That is not the case here. Citadel of the Lotus is another mixed bag for me. Out of all these stages, Child Paradise is the best level this game provides. Not too many hazards, not too many enemies. This stage is really good. And also, Moldy Jungle is not bad either. Two stages I like, go figure. Bosses are the more conflicting part of the game. First comes this game's version of Ed Dragoon except no drill or ice. The Neural, that's a test of patience just trying to shoot the gigantic worm. The Vortex is one of the more dangerous ones with how he uses arms. Metal Amber is the most interesting, and despite my wanting to like this boss more than I did, what holds it back is trying to maintain mobility. Either it's avoiding vehicles, vulnerability in the air, or trying to maintain speed to avoid falling behind. Maria sucks. She just sucks. Lasers, spike balls, meta-wrecks all over the place. Also, Maria is a boss. Let that sink in.
This should not be happening.
Finally, there's the Exile. Trying to build a boost while using the Lightspeed attack on the meta-wrecks or avoiding the Exile's attacks is more aggravating than engaging. Then there's the second phase where Super Sonic has to build a boost all while avoiding the Exile's attacks. I enjoyed this more than the first phase because at least Sonic doesn't have to worry about building a boost all while running like a coward. Needless to say, these bosses left a lot to be desired, especially Metal Amber. Except Maria. This fight did need to happen, just like Shadow's trauma. Again. As for the voice acting, it's subpar. Sonic is trying his hardest with the Jason Griffith impression and comes off as being forced.
Let's go, Tails. I think it's time we made a visit to our mustache friend. It's okay. I can go on foot. It's easier anyway. Keep a lookout for a workaround, though. Eggman definitely got past the radars. Home? You destroy everything and everyone because you feel a little homesick?
Tails comes off as the Tails everyone knows, all while not sounding like him at the same time.
My sensors picked up strange activity at an abandoned Eggman outpost not far from here. I thought it was another gun investigation, so I didn't pay much attention. But then I suddenly lost communication with all of the sensors on the island. I'm sure Eggman has something to do with it. We should go investigate the old Eggman Tower. Eggman's tracker signal comes from the depths of Zone 99. Since we weren't invited, Don's radars can detect us.
Eggman sounds like himself, but with a Russian accent.
Thorndike was certainly ambitious. As you know, traveling to different dimensions wasn't imperfect science back then. Even for the likes of me, messing with the very fabric of time and space can wreak untold havoc on a living organism. And unfortunately for your old friend, doing so twice within a short period of time caused his body to age rapidly, giving him roughly 15 years to live. Well, climbing up to the GON's highest position and changing their war-torn ways was no small feat, and during that time of maintaining peace, he had found a new friend.
And Shadow is similar to Eggman in that regard. Kinda sounds like Pepe Le Pew.
Didn't have enough time. Where's the objective's location? Yes, Rouge. Continue tracking my signal. I'm on my way. Rouge, I don't feel the presence of an emerald inside this temple. Doctor has beaten us to it.
I am Pepe Le Pew, your lover. So impetuous, but nice. You know, it is not just a case of physical attraction. I admire her mind, too.
Rouge actually sounds not that bad. She's on par with what Rouge sounds like from Free Riders onward. In fact, out of everyone from this main cast, Rouge is the one that sounds the best to me.
Hey, Shadow. Why did you leave immediately? You could have come to my office and said hi. Well, you're on the right track. Shadow, are you listening to me?
Well, that's just rude. He should have stayed to greet his guests. Go get him, Tiger.
The Exiled is probably the only one whose voice is pretty solid. It doesn't come off as someone who's struggling to sound genuine or someone who speaks Russian is trying to speak English.
You may call me Exiled. What an honor to finally meet you. Controller of the light. The one who has been calling for you has been at peace for a long time. Yes, you have played a role well. Gun's technology is useful for creating illusions and manipulating the fools. They are the omens. The omens of the end of chaos. It was unexpected, but the reality where the emeralds no longer exist are doomed to be destroyed by them. All that is left is to break you.
So voice acting wise is a mixed bag. The soundtrack goes into the genre of what I think is called dubstep, or techno I presume, with a blend of some alternative rock. I normally don't listen to this type of music, but I must admit that some tracks in this game aren't that bad, despite the controversy behind it. Sonic Omens also has multiplayer. It's not as competitive as the multiplayer in Sonic Adventure 2. I think this multiplayer is on par with Sonic 06's multiplayer, just without the tag mode where both players work together. This multiplayer is just both hedgehogs running through the same stages from the main game. Speaking of, after finishing the game, you can play the same stages but with Sonic and Shadow swapped. It was interesting playing through the Sonic series with Shadow and vice versa, which leads to some areas difficult for some characters to maneuver around. Shadow will have difficulty crossing gaps that requires the bracelet, while Sonic will have some difficulty fighting large groups of enemies. The light speed attack will only get him so far because he has to resort to homing attacks. Of course, there were some areas that were more pleasant to traverse through, so the experience wasn't a complete bust. Finally, there's the presentation. This is by far the best looking Sonic game, and that statement is doubled by the fact that this is a fan game. Every environment from the beach to the military compound, the desert, even United Railroad, which is the best looking stage in the game. And that's already rare for 3D Sonic fan games to be released in a finished state. It's professionally made and could rival that of the Hedgehog engine. Love to see what other games get made with this Infinity engine. Sonic Omens is a game that is both interesting and infuriating. On the surface, it's a 3D Sonic fan game that looks professionally made with designs that reveal its ugly side as you play it. Sonic Omens starts off on a positive note with its introduction, but gets progressively worse as the game progresses. I honestly enjoyed small portions of this game, while the remainder left me wanting even the smallest issues addressed so that the gameplay experience is smoother than what was released. The story not only breaks canon, but is also a mess with how it treats Shadow, how the Exile is introduced, and introduces the United World, and not explaining how landscapes exist from Earth to Mobius, such as the Grand Canyon, or how White Jungle was brought back, that is, unless you looked at the extras but clicked the red rings. Red rings return in this game, and I honestly couldn't care less about them. They've been appearing in Sonic games since Sonic Colors, and they have not been swapped out since. Playing as Sonic and Shadow wasn't the worst experience that I played in any Sonic game, fan-made or otherwise. The Hyper Tornado needs the Star Fox treatment, boss fights left a lot to be desired, especially after the recent update that butchers the focus when locking onto the boss, which isn't properly telegraphed when doing so. Also, the camera can't be used freely unlike previously. Here's the camera before the update, and here's the camera after the update. Overall, Sonic Omens is a game that has a great start but progresses poorly. If there's anything I learned from this experience, is that games like these needed more consideration. This may be a fan game that takes place after the events of Sonic X and Sonic Unleashed with adventure modern gameplay, but not everything was put together properly, as previously stated. I can only hope that 3D Sonic fan games not only brings back the additional Sonic gameplay that was introduced in Sonic Adventure and Sonic Unleashed respectively, but also does both the characters and the world building justice. And so far, I have yet to see that. Sonic Omens was an enlightening journey, but I can't overlook the problems this game has that drags it down as it goes. And because of that, I dub Sonic Omens the worst kind of fan game. One that uses existing content that butchers other existing content, including its own. Despite my minimal enjoyments of Sonic Omens, it still manages to miss multiple marks. And that's why Sonic Omens is both interesting and infuriating. Oh, here's another. Woo! We do not need to hear this music. No, we do not. No, seriously, whose idea was to use the 4Kids version of the soundtrack instead of just the original Japanese one?